Spooky story, spooky story. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Valentine and here we talk about spooky stuff. We have our supernatural slumber party Sunday. We also do Halloween decor. We're going to be doing Yule decor. We're going to be doing a bunch of stuff. Occasionally I drop in some witchy goodness, but I really haven't done that in a very long time. With Samhain coming up, I kind of want to do a tarot card collection, a mini collection. I'm not going to do all of my decks, but I'm going to do a bunch of the decks that I'm interested in. But anywho, today we're going to be doing something that we haven't done in a very long time. And I know people are like, girl, I've been checking every Sunday for this video and you're not doing it. Let me just say thank you. Thank you so much for, I have 1,000 subscribers now. A lot of people are like, oh, 1,000 is not that much. To me, that's huge. So thank you guys so much for being here. I've hit 1,000. We are growing. And though 1,000 might not be like other giant creators out there, the 1,000 that are here right now are mighty. You guys are mighty. Y'all are strong. Y'all have very clear voices. I hear you. I see you. I love recognizing the same faces in the comments below. It's really exciting. I know that y'all have been looking for one of these supernatural slumber party Sundays. I know that y'all are wanting that back. So I'm here to please. I'm here in my big, comfy black t-shirt. Hopefully you are comfortable and in a comfortable setting because we're going to be diving into something pretty spooky tonight. Honestly, it's one of, to me, the weirdest that I've got. It's technically not my story. This is a Mama Valentine. This is a Mama Moon story is what I call her. This is one of her personal stories and it's a doozy. Every time I hear her talk about it, because I've told friends before and they'll be like, I want to hear Mama Moon talk about it, you know? So she'll talk about it. And every time I'm like, that is so weird. Who knows? Who knows? So everyone, I hope you're wearing something comfortable and you're in a good, comfy environment. Tonight I'm going to light my new favorite candle. I still love the Yankee Candle jack-o'-lantern, but I tried out a lot of the Kringle candles this year. I was gonna count, but it's quite a few. I tried out more than I didn't. Let's put it that way. But this Kringle Graveyard Night. But this one smells so good. It's a weird smell. Okay? It's definitely probably not for everyone. I can't even begin to describe it. Like, not even a chance. It almost smells like when you go trick-or-treating and you have like your plastic, like a plastic trash bag filled with chocolate. Yeah, that's totally what that reminds me of. It's like Tootsie Rolls or like, I don't know. It smells good, but it's never a candle I thought I would enjoy. And honestly, when I smelled it, when I did the cold sniff, I was like, that shit is nasty. But after lighting it, damn, that is some mighty fine candle. All right, everybody, why don't you grab something yummy to drink? Maybe a delicious little treat. Relax, get comfy, get cozy, because tonight we're gonna be talking about a Wendigo. This one might be a little bit long. I'm just kind of a talker. Like I was saying, this is a Mama Moon tale. This is my mother. She is a very witchy lady herself. She has probably had more strange experiences than I have, but she's also lived twice as long. She has had quite a life full of magical, mystical goodness. And one of those things was an extremely bizarre incident in my childhood home. So this is not the home that has the whistling man or the white creature. This is the home that I think started a lot of my experiences. I did want to do a dedicated video to just that home, and I might still do that because this home, I think it was on like a ley line or like a vortex or something. But I will say there was an exorbitant amount of Native American artifacts that were found, and the construction crew, while making this house, they found so many arrowheads on like the property while they were building that they decided to start placing the arrowheads into the home, like the actual structure of the home. And so I'm trying to think of it like basically like a classic Texas white stone house. That's what I grew up in. I'll try to put a picture here. If there isn't a picture, then just watch me saying here. It's like concrete and then the stone. So in the concrete, they would place the arrowheads. I mean, there was probably like 50 arrowheads built in that house. There were arrowheads everywhere, especially on the outside of the house. We also lived in the middle of nowhere. So I grew up in the country. I think we had 10 or 15 acres of land that was just pure trees. Like it was just pure, unadulterated, untouched land, like just woods. And there was a dry creek, and in the dry creek you would find arrowheads, you would find like these weird coins, like you would find a bunch of stuff. Like I think my mom found pottery at one point that was like obviously extremely old. It's just weird, like weird stuff would appear on that land. The land was in the middle of nowhere. It was honestly really spooky. Like I would say 60% of my weird experiences have happened in that house, and we haven't even touched those, especially when I was a little girl. I had a lot of weird stuff, especially with childlike ghosts. I don't know if it was actually a child. That was something pretty prominent in that house. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to that house. And not only did we have like, 10, 15 acres of trees, like forests surrounding my house, our nearest neighbors were like miles away, and they also had 15 to 100 acres of land, like trees, just nothing, like untouched land. If you screamed, like nobody would hear you. Like nobody would hear you scream. Nobody would hear you call out for help. This was the middle of nowhere. It took us like 40 minutes just to get to the nearest grocery store. The boonies. Like I lived in the boonies. A part of living in the boonies is we had chickens and we had goats. We had a really large garden. It was just like a plot of land that my mom was really into gardening. And if you were driving to my house, you would have to go along this long country road. Basically, no lights, nothing. I mean, pitch black, dark. The stars are your guide. Kind of dark road. And it's just trees, like wooded trees. And back then, it was just one single road going this way, one single road going this way. You drive out in the country, super dark. This is the hill country of Texas too. So there's like these mountainous kind of like ranges, these giant hills, not really mountains. And you're like, the road is like carved through the hills. So you're like swerving and going up and down, like all over the place. And there's no lights. It's super dark and just trees, and Texas trees. So like really gnarly, a lot of cactus. So as you're driving, eventually you have to turn onto a gravel road. The further you get out, the less man has touched. Not a nice road anymore. It's going to be a gravelly, rocky terrain. And we always had to drive really, really slow because my dad would be like, it's going to kick up the rocks on the car and ruin the paint job. So we would drive really, really slow. And we had a really long drive that was on our property just to get to our house. So you would drive and go really, really slow, and it was just trees after tree after tree. And I mean, when I was a little girl, I would look out into the trees and it would just never end, like never ending trees. It's just as far as you could see trees. I would always get really scared. I would get really scared. And I would think that like on that drive, like the moment we would hit the gravel and start driving to our house up on the top of the hill, I would always think I have to stare at the clock and never look outside into out into the trees. Like I could never look out the window. I was convinced that if I removed my eyes from the radio clock and I looked out into the woods, I would see something that I didn't want to see. And you know what? One time I did, and that's a different story. That confirmed in my child mind that I was like, you were right, Valentine. You don't look into the woods. So you would go up the road. I would stare at the clock, never look outside the window. And then once you kind of came up further onto the hill, the trees would kind of dissipate and there was a huge clearing. And most of it was gravel. Like it was like it was like a circle, like a roundabout. And we had this like huge barn to the right. And then in the front was our old stone home. The home was up on top of the hill. And so like it was kind of at a slant. So because of that, there was these giant like steps. They were stairs, but they were huge. So like you would have to take 3 steps to go up one stair and then 3 steps to go up the next stair. And I think there was like 6 or 7 of them. I don't remember exactly how many. So it would take a while for you to get up these steps to get to the house. Okay. So the barn was over here to the right. The house was where you guys are at. Like I would be facing the house. Y'all would be facing me if you were inside the house looking out. And then back here, like right where the clearing was, when you would drive up, was the large garden, and then we had the chicken coop, and then further to the left, over this way, over yonder, there was a large clearing. It was just grass, like just a clearing of grass. So it would be like trees everywhere. It was literally like we were circled in a wall of trees with little clearings in certain areas to make it not like perfect circle. That is what the environment looks like. My mom, let's give you some background on my mom. Mama Moon, she did not want to be on camera, but let's give you a background about her. So the background on Mama Moon. Growing up when I was young, she had her own business. She was her own business owner. She had a partner, her and her business partner. They went and got licensed to be estate liquidators and auctioneers. My mom and her business partner, that's what they decided to do. They created a business where they would go in to large estates, price everything out and sell it, and then they would get like a piece. Also, occasionally they would do auctioneer stuff. So like if they had a client wanted to do an auction, my mom was licensed to do so. That's what she did. Growing up, our home was always full of antiques. Like if you're wondering where I get my style from or my interests, my mom, for sure. She would go to these homes and price everything out, and usually it would take weeks. Like it would take days sometimes, but at least a week, where she would go and stay every single night in this person's home who usually just passed away, and she would price everything out with her partner. Sometimes my parents would like let me go along. Sometimes the homes were just in horrible condition, and it was really sad. And you would find these hidden gems and treasures in these homes that were like completely falling apart and just like rats everywhere and stuff, like crazy stuff. Like it was hard work. A lot of people are like, oh, I would love to do that, but it's dirty work. Part of my mom's job required her to either spend the night for days at a time or leave at basically the crack of dawn to get to these homes, to price things out, or to open up for business. This one estate sale, I don't know which one it was. It happened to be nearby. So my mom didn't have to spend the night. Usually she'd spend the night if it was like in a different town or something. This one, she didn't have to do that. She woke up early in the morning. I think it was about 4 o'clock in the morning. It was pretty early. The sun is starting to come up, but not really. It's like, you know, it's like twilight hours. And so she's waking up. She depends on coffee. So she goes to the kitchen. She makes herself some coffee. I'm a little baby Valentine during the story. I was like, asleep on my pillow. I never woke up at the crack of dawn. My dad's asleep. I'm asleep. My brother's asleep. And my mom's in the kitchen. She's doing her thing. She began to make her brew. So she was brewing her brew. All of a sudden, she kind of got just like the chills. She kind of got like a little hair standing. A little bit strange. A little bit weird. And she was like, something to keep in mind. You know what I mean? My mom, she's really phenomenal at paying attention to her gut and her hunches. So automatically she knew like, that's strange. Take account and consider it for the rest of your day. That's basically how she operates. And then all of a sudden she hears this little bit, woo, you know, in the background. Little strange sound, and it sounded really far away. But we lived in the country. We lived in the woods. Like we heard shit all the time. Like all the time. We heard very strange sounds. So she hears something and she's just like, maybe it was like horses or something. We had a lot of horses. Not us, but our nearest neighbors had a lot of horses. My mom was like, maybe it was one of the horses or something. Just brushed it off. But she still was kind of considering things because of her little chill. So she gets on the phone. She talks to her business partner and she's like, yeah, I'm headed out. I should be there in like 40 minutes to an hour. And they kind of mapped out their stuff and like what their plan was for the day. My mom gets her stuff. She gets her giant bag. So she gets her, satchel, her knapsack full of shit, and she heads on out the door. So my mom walks outside the door, turns around, and she's locking the door when she hears something screaming. Again, not like La Llorona, not like my white creature. Well, actually kind of like my white creature. It sounded kind of like a woman, but it sounds really far away. Really, really, really far away. So my mom's like, she stops, she listens, and she kind of like looks out in the woods, and she's like, perking her ears up. Like, what is that? And she hears it, but it's not like super long. It's not crazy, not like mine. And so she hears that and she thinks, oh, maybe someone hurt themselves. Like maybe someone stepped on like a cactus, or maybe somebody got bit or attacked, because like we do live in the country. She continues on because it's stopped now. So she continues on. She like gets her bag, she locks up the house, she turns around and she starts walking. And as she's walking, she hears the scream again. And this time, it's not stopping. It just sounds like a continuous kind of like breathy, hard scream. Like it's like gasping for air and screaming. But she's listening to it and she's like, is it a dog? Because now it sounds more like a dog, or maybe like a horse. Like a horse when it's like neighing, but like the end of the neigh, not the like front bit. So she's like, what the fuck is that? So she kind of stops and she looks and she's like, I don't know, but it sounds pretty far away. So she continues walking, and she's walking down these stairs. And that's why I tried to give you guys a good picture of these long ass stairs, because it's taken a while for my mom to get down these stairs. So as she's walking, she stops because she's realizing it's getting louder. And it's not just loud. I mean, it is loud. So my mom's like, what the hell is that? So she stops. Her hair is standing. She's looking around, and she's like, no, it's definitely coming from this side of the house. So when she's leaving the house, it's coming from her right side, which is what I said in the beginning of the story is the left. So it's where the clearing is at. So she's like, it's something definitely kind of coming from behind the house towards the clearing. And so she's staring, and it's just screaming and screaming and screaming, and it's like gasping and screaming. And my mom's like, it's coming here. It's coming here. So she starts freaking out. She starts hauling ass down those stairs as she's running to her car. So she's getting to her car, and this is back when like you didn't have the little button to like make the car unlock. Voiceover Valentine here. So Mama Moon was watching me edit, and she said that I completely failed. I failed to emphasize and explain what was going through her mind during this time. So at first, initially, it did sound kind of humanoid, but it's because she couldn't really wrap her mind around it. But eventually it became incredibly animalistic and blood-curdling. It sounded as if the animal or the creature was in such immense pain that it had lost its ability to function. And she didn't know what was going to emerge from the woods. She was terrified. But from the scream, from the pain, the sound, she knew that it was hurt, in horrible pain, and that if it spotted her, it could be potentially dangerous. She was actually really concerned that it was going to be bloodied or potentially disfigured. And she says that her internal instincts were run from this thing, hide. Animal instincts going full force, and it was like, get away, don't be seen. So she's fumbling for her keys, but she's also kind of looking like, I want to see it. I want to see what this is. And she's like, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. It's getting louder, it's getting louder. She puts the key in the slot, and when she goes to turn it, she drops her keys on the ground. So she picks up her keys, and that's when she looks up and sees something is coming out of the woods. So she freaks out. She gets in her car, and she closes it as gently as she can to not cause any attention to her. And she sits there frozen, doesn't breathe, doesn't say anything, and she just stares at the clearing. And she said this. So this is how she describes the thing that came out of the woods. She said it had to have been around 8 to 9 feet tall. 8 to 9 feet tall, solid black. It looked like a person's body. It had hands, but it had a deer head and giant antlers and hooves, and it was running on its hind legs coming out of the woods. And she said that it was pretty far away, so she couldn't see like its eyes or anything like that, but she could see the shape of it. And she said that the reason why she freaked out about how tall it was is because its horns were hitting the trees as it was coming out. So it was like really tall to be hitting the tops of the trees like that. It was running like a person would run, like its arms, but its legs were like a goat's, is how she described it. And she said that she just sat there thinking, like, just what was that? And she said that she was frozen and just terrified, like just straight terrified. She said that the fear was unlike anything she'd ever experienced. She started to think like maybe she was delusional, but she could still hear it screaming. No, that was real. And it continued to go deeper and deeper into the woods. She didn't know what to do, so she just closed the door completely, locked it, turned the car on, and drove to work. Which I'm like, your children were inside the house. I was asleep. I was a little baby and I was asleep inside the house. So you saw that and you just left us there? So I don't know. She only ever saw it that one time. She has no idea what it was. To this day is like, it was the weirdest shit I ever saw. And it wasn't until last year that I showed her a picture of a Wendigo. And I was like, is this what you saw? And she was like, that's it. Like, that's it. For the longest time, she kept saying it was more deer-like because she didn't really know how to explain it. And then she went to like goat-like, and it had like a man's body. It wasn't like a skinny body. It was like thick man's body. She knew that it had a deer head and like giant antlers. So now that was my mom's. And then years later, again, I've mentioned this before, my brother has he blocks out a lot of really strange experiences that have happened to him. So I found out through his really good friend that when they were younger, they saw something that looked exactly like that. And I did not know that story until maybe like a year ago or 2 years ago. My brother's friend reached out to me. He was talking about he was asking if did I have any experience with like a really tall, large creature in the woods. And I was like, that's fucking weird. Like, why would you ask me that? Like, I haven't talked to this guy in years. I was like, that reminds me of my mom's story, but I'm not going to tell this dude that, So I was just like, no, I haven't, but like, why do you ask? So I'm keeping my cards to my chest. And so he was like, yeah. And he was like, I just want to know because recently I was talking to your brother and your brother has like no memory of it he was like, and it's something that I haven't been able to forget to this day. I know I've had crazy experiences where my brother was there to witness it and he doesn't remember a single thing. So his friend was like, what is with that? That's super weird. And I was like, I don't know. It's really strange. And I was like, so did the experience that you had, did it happen at my parents' house? Like, did it happen at my childhood home? And he's like, yeah, that it was him, another one of their friends, and my brother was driving and they were going up that long gravel road. The one where I felt like if I looked in the woods, I would see something that I didn't want to see. So my brother's going up the road. The friend told me that it was pretty late at night. I don't know what they were doing, but it was pretty dark, pretty late. And they're coming up the driveway and again, in the country, it's surprisingly not as dark as you think it's going to be because there's stars and the stars actually shine quite a bit of light. And so does the moon. You would be surprised. So they're going through the gravel road and my house is further up the hill. They're going up the road and it was like the moon and the stars disappeared all of a sudden. All of a sudden it just got really, really dark. My brother and their friends, they look up to see why did it get so dark? And that's when they see this figure. It had stepped out from the woods onto the road and that it was large, really tall. It was standing on two legs. It's blocking a lot. It's very large, up to the trees, not the tree tops, but up to the tree branches, kind of large. And it's standing in the road. And my brother had turned off his headlights when they were going up the road. I forgot to mention that part. That is something that my dad used to do to us as kids to scare us. I'm assuming my brother was doing that to his friends to try to freak them out. It was really, really common for my parents to turn off the headlights. This is super dangerous. I do not recommend this at all. My parents are crazy. everybody, specifically my dad. This is very, very much my dad. My dad would turn off the headlights and drive through the country roads and talk about scary creatures that lived in the forest. Y'all are gonna be like, no wonder you think you're seeing weird stuff. Your parents traumatized you. I mean, you might be right. This is all just a part of my imagination. I'm just like traumatized from my childhood. But my mom would get on board with the scary stories. My dad would talk about the goat man. He would turn off the headlights, drive through the country roads, like up through the hills and through the gravel and shit and through the woods. And he would talk about the goat man, and that the goat man would like lived in our woods and that he would come out and attack us. The goat man was kind of chupacabra-esque, not like this Wendigo. It was not the same thing. And my mom would like go along with it, and she would like scratch her nails up against the side of the car door and tell us that the goat man was trying to get into our car. So I think my brother was trying to pull something like that. I don't know. Maybe he was trying to pull a goat man spooky story time with his friends, but it got interrupted by a real monster. But he had turned his lights off, and they were going up the gravel road, which is a lot safer than what my parents used to do, because they would do it on like the actual hill country roads, like not our gravel road. And so my brother had turned off the lights. They were going up the spooky gravel road, and that's when the thing had stepped out in front of them. And my brother was like, "Do y'all see that?" Because it kind of just looked like a black mass, you know? And that's when the friend who is telling me the story was like, "Turn the fucking lights on, turn the lights on," you know. He goes and turns his headlights on. Right when they turned on, they can see the foot, like just the foot going into the woods, like the tail end, and that it was very large. So that was years and years and years ago. I don't know if it was around the time that my mom saw her hooved creature. I don't know the timeline, because again, I never heard this story from the friend until a year or two ago, and my brother doesn't remember it at all. But it was the friend in the front seat that was telling me the story that was like, it has haunted me ever since. Like, I don't understand how he doesn't remember it, and it really bothers me that he doesn't remember it. I feel kind of like I'm going crazy thinking about it. So I just want to know if you've had an experience like that. And that's when I was like, no, but my mom. So I decided to tell him about my mom's story, and he was like, I think it's real, you know? So that is the weird tale of the creature that lived in our woods. I don't know what it was. I never saw it. My mom saw it, and this friend saw it. My brother did too. He just doesn't remember it. To me, that sounds like a Wendigo. And then the fact that there was so much Native American artifacts and pieces, remnants left behind and like built into our house and on our property. The Wendigo and like skinwalkers and shapeshifters, like all of that kind of coincide with one another. And I mean, it's weird. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think we're crazy? Do you think my family's full of wackos and then we happen to have best friends that are wackos too? Weird stuff. But my mom said that she just didn't know what to do with herself, so she just went about her day like normal. She was like, okay, well, that was weird, off to work. I think a lot of us do that. Again, it comes back to like my opinion on how people try to rationalize everything. She did, I didn't mention this, but she did talk to, it was either my dad or like a vet or something, and they did say that like deer, if a deer got its leg caught in a bear trap, because we did have bear traps out there. Unfortunately, we didn't put them out there. We don't know who did. We don't know if it was a neighbor or some rando that walked onto our property, because that happened a lot. We don't know who put them out there, but my dog, my beautiful baby doggy that I had growing up as a kid, she got her paw caught in a trap. So we did know that there were traps out there, but they were basically impossible to find through all the woods. You know, if a deer steps in a trap or like gets wounded severely, they have been known to run on their hind legs. So they were saying that like it could potentially have just been a really, really large deer. And that deer are a lot larger than we think they are. So like if it was standing on its hind legs, like it could very well look like it's 8 feet tall. My mom swears that that was not a freaking deer. We live in the woods. We see deer every day. And she was talking about how it was like pitch black. The deer, there are black deer, and we did have some darker deer out there, but the most common deer are axis deer and white-tailed deer. The white-tailed deer, you know, like fluffy white undertail that's supposed to signal all the deer to be like, fucking run. So none of the deer really native to our area are solid black. So I hope that was a nice little spooky tale for Halloween. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. I hoped you enjoyed this tale, and I hope that y'all were happy that I got back into the Supernatural Sundays, because I know people were missing it, and that makes me so happy. I'm glad, because this is a series that I want to continue on for as long as I can. So thank you guys for being here, and that's about it. Let me know if what y'all think it was. Do you think it was just a deer that hurt itself? Do you think the friend saw the same thing, or maybe he saw something different? But okay, guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope that you have a wonderful evening. Yeah, good night. Bye. Bye, guys.